musician,
long-distance kayaker,
a businessman,
she looks after animals,
artist,
author.
We interview remarkable people.
They're talented in so many different areas.
You're listening to The Dialogue.
89.7 FM Eastside Radio.
You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue Show, where I interview remarkable people. On the show today, I have Sharon Rowland, who is an award-winning CEO and the CEO of ReachLocal. Sharon, welcome to not only my studio, but also to Australia. How often have you been here before?
Thank you, Natasha. Well, I actually come pretty regularly. I try to get here twice a year, and I've actually been coming to Australia probably for the last 25 years in various business capacities.
Do you like it here?
I do. It's just a long way away from anywhere.
It is a really long way away because you actually live in America.
I do. I live in Los Angeles at the moment, and prior to that, I was in New York for 15 years.
And the UK before that.
And the UK before that.
So you really are a globetrotter.
I try and be.
Absolutely. I was actually looking at something on Facebook, and they had a picture from the sky, must have been a drone, of the LA traffic bumper to bumper with all the cars going in one direction with the white lights on, and then the other lane with all the red lights on. It was quite extraordinary to see like these two snakes. Is it quite as bad as that?
It is absolutely like that. And for anybody that knows anything about LA, I live on a junction where the 405 meets the 101, and that's how everybody in LA talks.
Really? I thought we were bad here, but obviously not so bad. Now, you are a digital marketing expert, and I love that term because I get lots of emails in my spam folder from digital marketers, and I every time I hear that somebody is in that space, instantly you think of, some chap who would like to help you get your SEO up or your, whatever it is. That's not what you guys do, is it?
No, that's right. Although there are a lot of people that do that.
And let's also just clarify, ReachLocal is a global business. It's in like a whole lot of countries around the world. I mean, it's global.
Yes, that's right. So we're global, very large business in North America, Europe, Latin America. Then here we're in both Australia and New Zealand and also Japan. And look, our mission in life is really to help local businesses be successful. And what we focus on doing is really build all that ad tech and capability that large companies have at their fingertips because they can pay a lot of money, and then leverage that scale to deliver those type of solutions to local businesses.
Remember the cab driver?
Oh, yes. So, all right. So for the cab driver out there that's got his little firm, and maybe he's got between 5 and 10 cars that he's running, he's got to think about, right, somebody suddenly wants a cab, they're going to get on their mobile phone and they're going to search for what they want. He needs to make sure that he's turning up at the top of that search. And there's a lot of strategy and techniques behind that. But turning up's not good enough. You've then got to make sure, why are they going to call you, click to call for you rather than somebody else? And so your website needs to load very quickly. And then when they contact you, you've got to make sure you're actually answering that. We have a saying, don't leak leads, i.e. leads take money to come in your door. Make sure you're closing them to get sales.
Now, the reason why you're actually in the studio is because you have literally won a plethora of awards as a woman in business. I mean, you have won, just to list a few, the CEO of the Year by the CEO World Awards. I love that. It's just so impressive. You have also been awarded the Gold Stevie Award for the Female Executive of the Year, which was last year. You have been awarded another fantastic award, which I think was the Women's Bond Club Award, which you say is the one. I mean, you were laughing because you said to me, when I started listing them off, you said, "Oh, it's all just hype." Is it?
Well, look, there's a lot of marketing behind these things, and actually the reason I like doing them is because I want to get recognition for my company. I want to get recognition for women in the workplace, and we can be role models. The reason I care most about the Women's Bond Club Award was because It was real validation for me at a point in my career where I was a young CEO early in my career, and I really was doing a transformative job in the financial services industry in Wall Street, which was a very male-dominated industry. And so to get that recognition from pretty senior level peers at the time was, really spurred me on to understand that, I really was achieving, and I got recognition from the industry for it.
You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue Show, where I interview remarkable people. On the show today, I have Sharon Rowland, who is an award-winning CEO and the CEO of ReachLocal. As a female CEO, there are not that many around. And having been able to actually get where you have gone, not only have you done obviously brilliantly in ReachLocal, but you were also part of the Thompson financial brand companies. So, tell me a little bit about that as the CEO of these kind of large corporations. What's it like? And what's it like sort of working with other women and men who are quite sort of, gender dominant?
Right. Well, look, Thompson Financial, really was the company that I came into my own with. It was a $2 billion company, so it was a pretty big business, again, global. And I was pretty, young in my career, and I was given this opportunity to lead this company. And it was very challenging. It needed a lot of change. I dealt with a lot of tricky situations, a lot of tricky people situations. I was dealing, with a lot of men and needing to be authoritative and, effective at that time. And the fact I got that experience, it really did, if you like, boost me up, that if I can do that, I can really do anything that I want to. Now, interestingly, my career at Thompson Financial came to an end when we merged with another very famous company called Reuters, and we became Thomson Reuters. And the board, the new joint board, decided that the new CEO of the business would actually be the guy that was running Reuters, even though probably on paper I was much more experienced and a more credible operator, but I hadn't invested my energy in building my brand or networking up and out in the company. I'd just been heads down, focused on the business. So, that was a bit of a lesson for me that you could be an effective operator and a good CEO, and you'll get that recognition as a woman. But we as women have got to spend more time being aware of how we're being experienced in the broader environment, and we have to allocate some time to that.
I think you're so right. Men play golf and they go down the pub and they sort of bash each other on the back, and they have, sporting groups that they hang out at, and they do it very naturally. So it's almost that the sport or the event or the that becomes the focus, and the business camaraderie sort of sits behind it, but it's a very strong element. And women, and I don't know how you feel about this, but in my experience, women are very jealous of other women who do very well. It seems to me that women are far more interested in shredding amazing women around them than actually building them up and becoming that, that group. So how do we change that? How do we change the way women view other women in business?
So I think we have to change it by, frankly, changing our own behaviors and attitudes. And encouraging successful women to be really good role models for their teammates and for sort of younger women coming up through. There's so much data that demonstrates that if in a meeting there are two women and one woman speaks up, if the other woman jumps in and validates what that woman has said, it gets more credibility. And so we have to practice those type of activities. I've been fortunate, particularly over the last 10 years, to get to know a lot of very successful women, and having their companionship, their support at times, helping each other, brainstorm through difficult situations has, really quite changed my life.
Now, you grew up, you were obviously born in the UK, and you were an army brat, so you travelled an enormous amount with your family, oldest of 4 children, working class kind of family. The process of moving and having to kind of assimilate into new school environments, do you think that has helped you along the way with with your business, the way you do business with people?
I think it has, because the reality was I had to learn to adapt very quickly. I mean, if you took 6 months to make friends, you were moving by the time you made them. So I became very good at assessing a situation, focusing on what I needed to do and sort of being effective. And much later in my career, I actually put it all together that I was a very good problem solver. I was very good at engaging with people, understanding people. And I do think some of that came from the way, I was brought up with this constant moving.
What are you not good at?
Oh, boy. What am I not good at? Well, I'm not very disciplined at keeping to my diet, at keeping to my exercise regime.
But from a business point of view, I mean, what are you poor at in business?
What am I poor at in business? God, that's such a difficult one. Look, I think I would say, I am a pretty unusual, balanced person. And I don't want to sound like too boasty here, but I don't think you very often come across people who are both strategic and operational, who are good with people, that are good financial. And I think I'm very unusual like that. And frankly, actually, most of the people that I come across that are like that actually tend to be women. And I think that's one of the reasons I've been successful. Interesting, all of the CEO jobs I've been given have been really hard jobs.
Okay.
And I once read a piece of research that said most of the jobs that women get as a CEO are the hard jobs that actually men don't want.
Right.
Because they probably will fail at it. And it is true, when you look at where women are in CEO roles, they're really tough situations.
So what's tough about ReachLocal?
So ReachLocal...
and by the way, because you didn't answer my question about what you're really bad at.
Oh, you caught me out.
Yes, because you avoided that question completely. Does that mean you have no vices? You are a perfect human? Are you my first perfect human?
No, I'm not a perfect human. And I
do we just not acknowledge the negative?
No. Where I strive to get better is I process very fast. And so that can be experienced as not listening to people. So I have to work very hard at making sure the way people are experiencing me is in a really positive way and not a bulldozing, I know what we're doing, just follow me type of way, which is my natural inclination because I want to move fast and I want to be dynamic and I want us to get things done. And I have to be very aware and keep pulling myself back to you have to take people with you, which sometimes means you need to have your quiet voice on and listen better.
I knew there was something. I knew you were human after all. You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue Show, where I interview remarkable people. On the show today, I have Sharon Rowland, who is an award-winning CEO and the CEO of ReachLocal. You went to university, first person in your family to go to university. And
That's
apparently,
right.
When you mentioned that to your family, they said, why? Why would you want to do that?
Why would you want to do that? My father said, but surely you're going to go into the army.
Did he really think you were going into the army? You probably would have been brilliant at the army and you probably would be, a very senior individual. Maybe you could have stopped them from Brexit.
That would have been good.
It would have been very good. So went to university, did a degree in history and politics, which you said helped you with your critical thinking. And then went and did a postgraduate degree where you actually did teaching.
Yes, I was a high school teacher of history and economics for 3 years.
And then obviously decided the ceiling wasn't high enough for you.
Yes, I mean, I got a lot out of it. I mean, I have to tell you, dealing with a classroom of, 30, 15-year-olds, you really, learn a few things. But it wasn't going to be enough for me. I had got married at that time. My husband was an actor. and we all know how that goes.
You said not a very good actor.
Well,
but very good looking.
Certainly not from the paycheck. Let's put it that way. And I was very ambitious for our life and what we wanted from it. And so we had this conversation one day, and I said, well, look, all right, I'm going to go do it. And so I literally went back out. I went into business. I started in sales, and I, really worked my way up through companies.
Having children, and you have 3 children, obviously being in such a powerful position within these businesses as a CEO, as a women's, female CEO, and then having 3 kids, how did you balance that? And, what was the experience that you had as a mother?
Okay, so I was a weekend mother. That was the reality. Monday to Friday, I traveled a lot, worked long hours. So at the weekend, I dedicated myself, really. And so literally I did 2 things. I worked, and then I was a mother. So I really just sacrificed everything else that there could be in my life. And that's how I sort of managed through it. And it definitely worried me at times. I was lucky. I've been successful, and I've earned a lot of money. And so I was able to afford really good quality care for my children, which gave me the confidence to work. But, there were definitely times when I was, oh, my God, my kids are going to grow up and they're going to be, who's my mother? But, you'd get reassured because in the middle of the night when they were sick, they'd call for you and they knew who their mother was. And now, they're 28 and they're 25 and my little baby is nearly 18. I have a wonderful relationship with them and they're very proud of me. And I think I've shown them all that it is possible to focus on being successful and that you can do anything you apply yourself to, and you don't have to sacrifice a family life.
You got divorced a couple of years ago, which of course is fairly typical of just life in general, I think. And is there love in the future? I mean, is there something out there that is Is the idea of romance still something that's alive for you, or is it all about work?
Well, the first thing I would say is I have a fabulous relationship with my ex-husband and as a family. Listen, I work hard. I want to make room for my children in my lives. They're very important to me. I have wonderful friends, a lot of very great female friends. We golf together. We do a lot of things together. What will be, will be. I'm not really, out there looking for something.
Do you have a handicap?
It's not a great one, 28.
That's all right. That's not bad.
I can get round very fast, though.
Can you? I think you look like you do a lot of things very fast. Patience, I think, seems to be something that you don't have an enormous amount of. Not very patient. I mean, I would imagine that as an asset as opposed to a negative.
Yes, but I think you have to, manage that carefully, because sometimes you can be so impatient for everything that you miss a few things.
Now, when I was having a little Google around on the internet and doing a little bit of research on you, I came across a little breakdown of your earnings. And it's not something I would ever raise, but given it is in the public domain, I thought it was quite interesting to raise. And I think it listed something around sort of the $1.9 million mark for the year. I don't think it was to date. It was an annual income. You've made a lot of money. You've been very financially successful.
Yes, I have.
And I think that is incredible. And I think that's really exciting. And it's really important for other women to realize that they can make incredible money. Why do you think it is that women don't make that kind of money or don't set their goals on that kind of money generally?
I think it's believing in yourself, right? I did a piece of research a couple of years ago with a friend of mine who works in the New York University system. And one of the things we identified was that women are unlikely to put themselves forward for a job unless they feel they tick every box. Whereas a man will. They might only tick 2 of the requirements, but they'll still go for it. Whereas women will hold themselves back. And I had this validated yesterday. So I was in our Melbourne office and talking with one of the young women in the office who's just getting her first experience of learning to be a manager and a coach. And I sat down and had a one-on-one with her. And I said, what are your aspirations? And she was like, I don't know. To be a leader, but I could never be somebody like you. And I said, yes, you can, Emma. I said, you can. I said, but you've got to believe it. And if you don't believe it, you won't achieve it. And so I think we have to encourage more women to be ambitious, to stretch themselves. And frankly, those of us that are successful, we have a responsibility to role model and encourage and support that.
You're listening to 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha and The Dialogue Show, where I interview remarkable people. On the show today, I have Sharon Rowland, who is an award-winning CEO and the CEO of ReachLocal. Now, you established the Wadobe Group, which is a women's network. And why is this so important to you? I mean, obviously women in business is important to you, but you've dealt with men in business. You've dealt with, everything across the board. So why women, why working with women?
So this started about 10 years ago. And with, a number of women that I'd got to know through business, but then became friends, and then frankly became a really good support group for me as I started, to go through changes in my life. And we were like, hold on a minute. Men do all these retreats. They go off, they play golf, they bond, they brainstorm, they network. The reason there's not more women on boards is because actually most board members are men, and most men then refer other men onto boards. And we said we should do the same for women.
Absolutely.
And so we started to connect basically senior women. It started more media related, and then we broadened it out. And once a year we go away for 4 days. We play golf, we hike together, we brainstorm things. And over the years, it's become an incredible network where women have helped other women when they've lost their job, they've needed another job, they've needed mentoring through a situation. And it really has been a tremendous experience.
Now, golf comes up for you quite a bit. You love the golf. What do you love about the golf?
So shall I tell you how I got into golf?
Tell me.
So my boss said, you are ready to be the CEO of a company. There's just one thing you're missing. You don't play golf. He said, once you learn to play golf, you can then be a CEO. Now, I was angry. I was angry about it. But guess what? I was going to do whatever I had to do. But then I discovered that I loved it.
Yeah, I play golf as well, and my son's a brilliant golfer. And there is something about being on that golf course on a magnificent day that absolutely, it makes your soul sing.
Absolutely. And it's become a big part of my life. So I'm actually now very grateful to him.
I always tell my single girlfriends, they say, where do you meet nice men? I go, join the golf club. I can't tell you how many men are at the golf club. That's the place that you need to go to. What else do you do for leisure? I mean, and what makes you feel really happy inside?
Family. I have 2 sisters and a brother still that live in England. My parents died when they're quite young. So, the 4 of us, and particularly with me being the oldest, we've remained very close. And I'm very happy when I'm in that moment with family. I love being with my children. I love seeing the business succeed and the people I work with in the business succeed. Hey, I've got into yoga as I've got older because, we all have to keep, this suppleness going, do our best. I just leading a full and successful life.
If I were to ask you, I mean, given your success and where you sit in the world and the people that you must meet, what do you think is the biggest world issue that we have at the moment? What would you say that concerns you on a personal level for the future?
The growing divide between the rich and the poor.
Really, that's concerning.
It really worries me because it's getting worse. And look, and I've seen how it transformed my life in, going from being, the oldest in a working class family without a lot of resources to how successful I am now and what I've been able to do for my family and my relatives and the things I can do for myself. But I am like the exception. There's so few of us that get to do that. And the wealthier are getting wealthier and the poorer are getting poorer all across the globe. Australia, the United States, as well as, the places we tend to think of like that. And that worries me. And I'm a believer in you being able to be successful for yourself. But I believe there are certain human rights. I think there should be equal access to education, to healthcare, and money shouldn't be able to buy you better than anybody else. And it's been a foundation of the way, I've lived and thought, all the way from when I was a socialist at university.
Fantastic.
And that does really worry me.
Which is something I think, is a good worry. Now, we've come towards the end of the interview, but I'm just, the last thing that I'm a little bit curious about, in terms of business and SEO and this whole sort of digital marketing environment, your company works with small businesses. So if a small business, when you say a small business, what is a small business? How small is a small business?
So we tend to, I would describe it more as we work with local businesses,
okay,
right? Because a very small business often, doesn't need that. I mean, if you're literally a little entrepreneur, with your little store that's a sweet shop or something, what you need to do from digital marketing in terms of like your community would be very different from a lot of the businesses that we would be serving. So typically the business we would be serving, you'd be maybe the plumber with 5 vans and you're growing your business.
It's a growth business. So something that is in the process of growing.
And more of a service business. It could be your, a dentist and you're opening, you've got 3 practices.
Okay. So it's lead
you're
generation.
A hospital.
Lead generation, conversion.
It is much more about lead generation, conversion, helping them get the customers. And but there's still people that these dollars are very valuable to them, and they've got to feel really confident that they're spending their money on something they're going to get a return from. And I think you might remember there was a saying once, I know 50% of my marketing dollars are working for me. I just don't know which 50%.
No, absolutely.
Well, I consider one of the missions we're on is to solve that for people.
It's such an important part in the world, as you said earlier, has changed, and the way customers actually engage with business and life is, we live on our phones, we live in that digital marketing space, and it always concerns me when people go, children are on their phones all the time, and I think, well, unfortunately, that's the way of the new world.
It is the way of the world. I read a piece of research last week that they'd interviewed, all these teenagers, and basically they'd rather lose their wallet than their phone.
I hate to say it, but I feel the same way. We've come to the end of the interview. I just want to say thank you for sharing all of that insight, such incredibly important insight, and obviously coming from a woman who has been so successful. It's lovely to hear how positive you are about business and about women in business. So thank you so much for taking the time to come in.
Thank you very much for having me, Natasha.
It's a pleasure. You are listening to The Dialogue on 89.7 FM Eastside Radio. This is Natasha, and we'll be back next week with another fantastic interview.